Welcome to Linux for the Rest of Us, episode number 15. It's a show about Linux stuff, Linux news, Linux distributions, Linux everything. For novice, intermediate, advanced, it's Linux for everybody. We like to try to get people interested in Linux with this show. That's what we're all about. I'm actually a Linux noob, coming out of being a Linux noob because I'm learning so much. And you say, how can a Linux noob do a show about Linux? Because I am not the only person on the show. The person who brings the goods is our co-host, Door-to-Door Geek, Steve McLaughlin. What's going on, Steve?
Hello, all. And I'll just interject real quick. To be honest, I consider myself to be a advanced noob. Because there's plenty of stuff I don't know in comparison to a lot of the graybeards. And to be honest, a lot of the other podcasts I listen to. I have a niche of knowledge that I think I'm pretty good at, but as a whole, the whole operating system, I know how to find my answers. I know how to get by, but I'm learning constantly nonstop. So,
well, that's cool. I appreciate your modesty, but you know a lot. So that's why we call you the Linux Maven. And I think that's a good description of you. So what do you want to talk about this week, Linux-wise?
Well, to be honest, the first thing I wanted to talk about was something I've honestly had mixed emotions about. When I first heard about it, I was so psyched about it. And then Cypher Son in the IRC got me down on it. And then I'm a little bit back up on it again. And that is Night. Okay. NITE, which is a site that we know well because we interviewed the founders of it. Yeah. And they definitely are a couple people with a lot of passion, a lot of direction, and a lot of brains. Because, they said they're able to update semi-automatically within 5 minutes to when the host site updates. And what Night is, if people don't know, think of it as a shopping cart of software. But it's very streamlined, very simplistic, and so easy. Anybody who can comprehend how to use a mouse can install a whole bunch of different software with no
Okay, so we lost him. Do I still have you guys in the chat room? Okay. Well, let's call him back. Oh, Skype's trying to get the call back. Dum-de-doo-doo-de-dum. Love these technical difficulties. It's like watching TV and then all of a sudden, like, the screen goes black and you're just waiting for it to come back on.
Hey, Steve.
Yo.
My modem reset.
Of course it did.
Seriously, I hate that modem.
So do I.
Okay, yeah. So how much of that did you get?
Well, I'll play you the last thing you said. Okay, ready? Here's what you said.
Can install a whole bunch of different software with no.
Hold on,
gotcha.
You heard that part?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, just take it from there.
Okay. With no brain power even needed. You just scroll from the top of the page down to the page, check boxes of what you want installed, and then you hit finish. On Windows, you click install, you get an exe, you click next, and it just automatically handles everything for you. Well, nightnight.com/Linux is a Ubuntu version of this software, and it's a very similar-esque website. It's visually very appealing, and from the top down, it has apps. You can checkbox Chrome, Thunderbird, Pigeon, Skype, Transmission, Flash, OpenOffice, the GIMP, Inkscape, Picasa, VLC, Banshee, which is an audio player, restricted extras, which is a very vital part for Flash and MP3 codecs and MOV codecs and that kind of thing. Dropbox, GNOME Do, Adobe Air, and Wine.
Okay, sounds good so far.
It sounds good, but here's the confusing part. This is only for Ubuntu. Now, technically, you could say Ubuntu, Lubuntu, and whatever, but it says Ubuntu, and I can tell you in the last day, now they changed it to say Linux. The file you get is a .deb package, so it's really only for Debian-based distros, so Ubuntu, Mint, Debian, that kind of thing. But here's the part I don't understand.
Let me guess. Most of these come with it already?
Not most. A fair amount already come pre-installed. OpenOffice already comes installed by default. Transmission comes installed by default. And a lot of the rest of them are already in the repos. They're already in Ubuntu Software Center or Synaptic. The only thing I was pretty sure wasn't was Adobe Air and
Wine.
Wine's in there.
I had to install. Well, maybe I know because in Lubuntu, what I installed, that didn't come with a lot of stuff, did it?
Well, it didn't come with it, but you can go to the Synaptic Package Manager and install it.
So this 90 for Linux is if you don't want to go to the Synaptic Package Manager, you want to get everything from them instead, or?
Well, that's what I'll say. This is for the ultra noob who is comfortable with going to a website and downloading to install something.
Right.
What I believe happens in Debian-based distributions is if you go to install something and it already exists in the repos configured on that computer, you're okay. It will install it from the website, and then it will continue to update it with the rest of your computer's applications.
Okay.
But if it's an older version, it will stop the install and tell you there's already a newer version in the repos, and it will try not to install it unless you tell it to. Yes, definitely install.
I see.
The other thing that Cypher's son told me was within 24 hours, and this is a beautiful example of the difference between Linux users and Windows users. Within 24 hours, it was in a lot of places where they took the deb file that you get from this and they deconstructed it, looked at everything they could look at, and they found out the deb file contacts Night Night when you install it, and it tells Night Night what your Ubuntu version is, or now I guess your Linux version is, and your kernel version. Some people believe that's an invasion of privacy because they do not make it clear on their page that this, that they can do that.
Wait a minute. Well, I mean, let's see. There's a privacy link down there.
Well, yeah, down at the bottom they have a privacy link, but to some people that's not obvious enough. To me, they have every right to run simple generic queries about who's installing their software. They need to know their user base to a degree to know whether or not the software is A, performing accurately, and B, who can they expect.
Do I look frustrated? Do I? This sucks. Oh, man. So how are you guys? All right, let me pull up the chat room here. See if I'm still with you guys or I'm just talking to myself. Did I lose you guys? Well, I'm glad you're entertained, the Mac Geek. Okay, thanks. Thank you. I see you guys.
Hey, Steve.
Hello.
I asked the wife very nicely to turn the laptop off upstairs.
Thank you.
I'm blaming her.
That's cool. I'm cursing you every time we
I
go off.
I know. And I'm just blind to it, and I'm happy I'm blind to it.
No, I'm not. I'm just kidding. All right, let me put you back on full screen.
Okay. Did you hear what I said? I quoted what it says on their privacy page.
No, I didn't hear that. Here's where I left off.
They need to know their user base to a degree to know whether or not the software is A, performing accurately, and B, who can they expect? Gotcha.
Ready? Take it from there whenever you're ready.
And who they can expect is actually downloading this. If they don't know who's using it, how are they going to know who's using it in the future? It's kind of, if you don't know the history, you're doomed to repeat it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And right on their privacy page, it does say, after installing apps, diagnostic information is reported back to the night so we can improve reliability. I personally
I think it's a good I think it's a good idea. I mean,
right. I know. I personally have no reason to doubt it. I believe they have the best of intentions. And if it is just the kernel version and the OS version, that's useless. They can't take any of that and sell it for anybody for any reason.
Right.
But in typical fashion, the bearded people don't like it because they didn't make it really, really obvious, or they don't have a way to opt out. That's what they really want. They want a way to opt out. Personally, I'm a believer there's no such thing as privacy. It's an illusion. We haven't had privacy since like the 50s, but you know.
I mean, I agree, but there, some people like to be private. I mean, I'm so opposite end of the spectrum. So for me, this is like, what's the big deal? I would think that they're using this information to help. I would think. We talked to these guys. I mean, I would think that they're using this information to just help them find out how to make the product better. I mean, and the thing is in beta too. I mean, you're telling the good points and bad points, and that's great. But I think that they're open probably to input at this point.
Yes. Well, and at the same token, I believe just like their other product, this can grow into something that can make so many users' task of setting up a computer so easy. And how can that be bad? I'm sorry. Right. I just say, how can that be bad? And talking with them, I got the definite impression, yes, they have plans of how to make money, but they also insist on having something that people can use freely for personal use. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they have their little business plan, and giving away stuff for free is definitely part of it. It boggles me. I can't believe these guys get away with making a site with no head. Like, oops, let me get the page. No header, no logo. Let me see. 9-Night for Linux. I mean, it is like super. Look at this site.
I know.
They get away with this. I mean, they got a great Alexa rank and page rank. I mean, good for them. Good for them. This is like it's good for them that they're able to pull that off. That's all I have to say. Good app, though. I mean, glad you brought this up. It is a little funky, though, with Linux, though, because there's so... Door. What the hell? He's fired. Oh, man, we lost him again. I can't talk about anything about Linux without Door, so... I can't carry the show here. Door to door geek, door to door geek. Sorry, guys. I am sorry. Big time.
Hey, Steve.
Hello.
Yeah, did it again. I'm really getting mad.
Way ahead of you, Door. Hey, what do you think's happening?
I don't know. She heard me say, and it did it again. And she screamed down, I don't have the computer on.
Yeah. Do you have anything else using your network, or it's just, what is it, raining or something out there, or what?
No, I mean, we had bad storms the other day. And right now, I mean, it's not beautiful out, but it's not anything special out.
Okay.
My battery backup isn't beeping.
What is it? What do you have, Comcast?
Yeah, crap.
Yeah, I've been there, man.
I know. And I can tell you, 99% of the time, this modem has reset itself is when I'm on Skype with you.
Really? It just resets itself? What is it, a surfboard from 1995?
No, it's not a surfboard. It's a modem, battery backup, and telephone thingy.
Oh, I hate those things.
Yeah, and it's been over a year.
Yeah, guys, we're not going to be able to do the show tonight. There's no way. No way. I'm glad it's funny to you. Oh, man. It's crazy. I finally fixed my technical difficulties. I did my part. And I totally know where he's coming from with my Comcast line. With upload speed, they kill you with upload speed. If they think you're uploading anything, they freak out. They literally freak out, and they squeeze your bandwidth into nothing. I was getting like crazy, like my upload speed would go from like 2 megs to like 0.002K or something. It was just the worst. Comcast sucks.
I'm freaking out.
What do you want to do? Why don't you reset the modem? I don't know. Hook up the computer directly. I don't know. What can you? Is it not your router? I guess, right?
No, the router's fine. It's
okay.
It's the actual modem, and I did just unplug my Seagate Dockstar free whatever the hell it was, in case that was it.
Okay.
But I don't know.
What's your speed? Did you run a speed test?
Not in a while now.
Run it. See what you're getting on your upload. I'm just curious.
If I can keep a signal long enough for it to do its test.
Yeah, man, I know where you're coming from. I had this amazing frustration that you're having.
Well, and I honestly believe it's something like when it starts to get overworked, something in the crappy thing overheats and it just bombs.
Oh, you think it's overheating, really?
I don't know. Well,
I blame Comcast. They love to squeeze upload speed. And then you call them, are you guys cutting my bandwidth? No, never do that. We would never do that. No, sir, no, they say. And I go, how come every time I do a show? Oh, we don't do that. You kidding me? That's what they say.
Okay. I'm getting download of 8. This is from my house to DC. Download of 8 megabytes, ping 54 milliseconds, upload 3.6 megabytes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah,
I know.
Right.
I know. I honestly believe they know when you're doing a speed test. You know, they know you're hitting certain servers, and they can. Oh, he's doing a speed test. Turn the knob.
They let that right through.
Yeah.
Speed test priority. All right, you want to try again?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You were here's where you were. In door. Oh wait, no, I was talking. Good app though. I mean, glad you brought this up. Yeah. I'm gonna edit out the part where I was cursing. But why don't you? We've just finished up talking about Nine Night. Unless you want to cover any more about it.
No, I just think it's in the early development stages. I do believe it's going to blossom into a very useful app for new users. And I'm a firm believer a large percentage of the Ubuntu users are newer users. So I really like where they're going with this. I really have hope for it. I hope the bearded people don't get too upset at it.
The bearded people. I wonder if they take offense to that.
Oh, they do. I've already been contacted.
Oh, really? Did they? How do you know they have a beard?
Well, on a different podcast, I mentioned the bearded people, and I kind of got a little hate from it. And I said, look, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. You know, sorry. But I'll say wholeheartedly, if those bearded people weren't around, we would still be using Windows 3.1.
Right. It's not like you hate the bearded people.
I love them. It's just
You know how they think.
Their priorities, morals, and ethics are skewed from the normal person, which doesn't make them bad. It just makes them different. And in many ways, it makes them better people than me, but a little bit harder to deal with.
All right, let's leave it at that. I think that's good the way you put that. All right, what else you want to go over?
I wanted to talk about Ubuntu 10.10.
Okay.
Right now everybody's on Ubuntu 10.04, which was released back in April. For the last about 4 years, Ubuntu has made it a 6-month release schedule, which means every April and every October there's a new version. We're using 10.4 right now, which is 2010 April. Okay. The next version to come out is 2010 October. This version is called Maverick Meerkat.
Maverick Meerkat. These guys are wacky. It looks. I love the screenshots. I'm a sucker for screenshots.
I'm going to tell you, this is a ultra polished. See, here's one of the philosophy things. 10.04 was what they call a LTS, a release, which is a long-term support. It's a version that they're going to support for 3 years. And when they say support, they mean push updates. And their server version from 10.04 will be supported for 5 years, pushing updates to it, keeping it up to date. With this version, 10.04, you're going to receive newer version of Firefox, more into the future kind of thing. So if you're a kind of really, I want to be with a stable thing, you're going to stick with 10.04 until 11.10 comes out. I believe that's their pacing of long-term release versions.
Okay.
10.10's
The person whom you're trying to reach is currently unavailable. Please leave a message.
What do you think, guys? I'll leave this up to you. You want to keep trying, or should we call it? What do you guys think? He probably is using a 56K modem. I hate to leave. I mean, we got a decent amount of viewers here. I hate to leave you guys hanging. I feel bad. I know what Door's going through, too. I mean, I went through the whole thing with Comcast. Once more? You want to try once more? Raise your hand if you want us to keep going. I love doing that. All right, let's see if Door's back.
The person whom you're trying to reach is currently unavailable. Please leave a message.
Here he is. I don't know if he's on Linux, Jack. Sometimes he uses Windows for Skype. I have a feeling he's probably trying to troubleshoot something right now, so there he is. Yo.
Yeah. I just held down the reset button on that modem for a good, 10 seconds.
All right. Let's give it a shot. The fans want more, so we're going to keep going if that's cool with you.
Thank you very much, guys.
Here's where you were.
I believe that's their pacing of long-term release versions.
Okay.
10.10's... Okay.
Take it whenever you're ready.
Hey, 10.10 is more of a experimental version. It's a version where they really try to make leaps and bounds and changes and differences. And just looking at it, the general appearance of it should tell people there's a big change about to happen. One of the biggest changes they made was they took out F-Spot. F-Spot was a very standard and accepted photo management software.
Okay, why'd they do that?
Because Shotwell is the app that they're replacing with it, apparently is catching a lot of steam, getting used by a lot of people, and they believe the development of that application is going to go at such a pace, it's going to easily overshadow F-Spot in functionality very quickly. F-Spot was not complete at all. Like Picasso, you can manage and edit. With F-Spot, you could only link to a different editor and you could organize photos. So Shotwell's trying to be a little bit more than that. And I don't think it's a bad app. I think it's going to grow into a good app right now because this is not a long-term support release. It's going to be a little stumbly in the beginning.
Okay.
But it's a good app. They're also going to do a lot of polish on this version. They're actually supposedly going to make a drastic almost change with the desktop background and theme. They're going to lighten it up.
Really? With 1010?
With 1010. Because before it's always been brown and dark. And this is the version where they're supposedly going to lighten it up. And we'll have to wait and see how it looks. One of the biggest differences in 1010 is multi-touch support, which is going to mean a lot for the netbook and tablet market. I honestly believe Ubuntu Netbook Remix version is in some ways much more usable than Android on a tablet.
Okay.
That doesn't mean better, mind you, just more usable. Android's going to have a lot more support and momentum behind it.
Why do you say that? Have you used it?
I have used Ubuntu Netbook Remix off and on months, a couple months here, a couple months there. And in general, the whole time I was using it, I thought to myself, if I spent the $50 on my EEE and replaced the screen with a touch sensitive screen, it would have been so much easier to get around the operating system.
Really?
Yeah, because there's no main menu with the panel bar. There's a window with categories on the left and then applications on the right, and they're big icons where you could really easy touch, and get around the operating system. And it has been verified on the Apple Magic trackpad. Somebody installed the alpha and they tested it with that trackpad and the touchpad. The dual touch they said was working just fine.
Oh, that's great. I think that's great because I love the touchpad. I mean, I have a MacBook Pro and I love the touchpad on that. Love it. So I was thinking about getting the Magic touchpad or trackpad, but I wanted to make sure it worked with something besides a Mac.
Right. As time goes on, it's going to be more and more accepted as a standard way of data input. The other big thing that some purists, I'm not going to say beards, some purists hate, and that is they're going to add a paid apps section to Ubuntu Software Center.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I'm a firm believer that's one of the biggest things missing on all Linux distribution is a outlet for developers who make quality products to be able to advertise and offer their product.
Right.
I believe this is going to do a lot for the mom and pop-ish type people building small apps that do good work.
I agree. I think it's a great market too for developers, I think.
Yeah. And just like Android, I've never felt like this. I mean, before, period. I want to support someone who's putting their time and effort into something that makes me happy and makes my life easier. I've literally only bought one piece of software in the last 10 years before I had my Android phone.
What was it?
That was a Cronus 2010. That's because you in the podnutz community talk so highly about it. I felt like supporting them. Turns out it's software I don't need, but that's okay. I supported a company.
You mean like Comcast, right? They need your full support. If Doer does call to get his internet connection switched or upgraded, they're gonna take his money and they're not gonna do a damn thing. Well, we got about 10 or so minutes out of that burst. No, It was only 6. 5 minutes. So if we do the whole show in 5-minute bursts, I don't know if I can handle that, guys. We might have to postpone the show. That Ubuntu looks awesome, though, doesn't it? Yeah, I know, Timster. No, you know what? The Mac Geek, I actually called Comcast to get business class internet, and they said it's the same. You get the same thing. You just get a couple things that incorporate with Outlook, and maybe the support is a little better, but it's the same connection, according to them, because I tried that.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you want me to call you on my phone? Because I don't know what else to say, man.
We could do that. We could see how it sounds, I guess. Or we could do it
really random. Okay.
Yeah, want to try it?
Yeah, just because this is so random, it's really.
Let's see how it sounds. If it's horrible, we're just gonna do a show another time.
Okay.
All right. Oh wait, Door, call. What number should you call?
Well, I can call you on my phone from Skype. On the phone. You want me to call a different account?
Yeah. Well, let me log into Podnutz Daily, and when you call that, 610-624-1689 number.
Oh, okay.
I should be able to pick up with Skype.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
See ya. Yo.
Hey, man.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, it doesn't sound too bad. Let me raise the volume up.
Okay.
Door, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Let me crank it up a little higher. Man, we're really cranked.
Testing.
Go ahead.
Testing. Test. Oh, yeah. Testing.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's go with it. Hang on a sec.
Okay.
If I go full screen, it's going to show your phone number. Is that cool?
I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have it on my website.
Okay. Just wanted to check with you. All right. Check.
Test. Check.
Okay. Well, you want to know what the last thing that you said was?
Sure.
Okay.
Cronus 2010. That's because you in the Podnutz community talk so highly about it. I felt like supporting them.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out it's software I don't need. But that's okay. I supported a company.
Okay. Let me just do a little thing here, and then we'll start. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for those of you listening on the audio, we've been having serious internet connections. We're blaming Comcast. So you probably haven't heard up till now because I edited this podcast, but we had to switch to a regular phone, so Door's voice is going to sound a little different, but we're going to continue with the podcast, and then we'll get it all fixed up for next week. So, Door, you were saying you bought a Cronus.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't the software that I actually need, but once in a while supporting a company isn't bad, and I believe with, like, the Android apps and with these Ubuntu apps, this is a very good opportunity for smaller people to make a living doing good work,
Sure.
making apps that people actually need. And it isn't going to shock me because there's been previous, studies, I don't want to say studies, but real-life examples of, World of Goo. When the guy offered it for any price you wanted to pay, he made, I want to say $20,000. He made almost $40 per pop. People were willing to pay. He had it down to 10 cents was the least you could pay.
Wait, who's this guy?
And World of Goo.
What's World of Goo again?
It's our game.
Okay.
And when similar Windows products do that kind of thing, people pay 10 cents. You know what I mean? I think in the Linux world, people like supporting. They like feeling like, I did my part to support this guy who makes software. And I really do believe it's going to be a very good gateway for people who want to make a little extra money and provide a good app.
I guess we'll see how it goes. It's interesting. I can't say I'm opposed to it, but, maybe when that starts happening, all the guys who are doing the free stuff might call it quits.
Well, to be honest, it wouldn't shock me at all if people make free apps, just like Android, and have one feature kept back, or have a donate version, where if you want to donate back to them, you can pay for it. If you don't want to donate to them, you can just download it.
It sounds like the app stores, doesn't it? That seems to be the business plan with most of the apps in the app stores.
Yeah, and they work for the most part.
Yeah.
So, I kind of agree going with it.
That should be pretty cool. We'll see what happens with that.
Right.
As long as they don't kill us, as long as they don't kill us on the price of the apps.
Well, I'm sure after time we're going to have a lot of corporations getting into the act, and I think they might make it a sour place in a couple of years, but for right now, I have very good hopes for it.
Okay.
The other little trick I wanted to tell people, a lot of Windows users and Mac users might not be accustomed to what I'm about to say. But in Ubuntu 10.04, right now, you can update to 10.10 alpha. Right from within the operating system. The beta is out right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds a little scary. Going to an alpha is quite unstable.
Yeah, and on September the 22nd, a release candidate came out. That's typically the day I download it.
Okay.
Because the servers aren't overwhelmed, and it's the release candidate, which means a lot is going to change on it.
Right.
But right now, if you wanted to update to the release candidate, boot into Ubuntu, log in, hold down Alt, hit F2, and you'll get a run dialog.
Okay.
And all you have to type is update-manager-B. D is in dog.
Okay.
And this allows you to do a distribution upgrade.
Huh.
At least from when I started, Ubuntu 6.06, from every version since then, you can do a distribution upgrade to the next version. I'm not going to say it's the exact same as blanking and reinstalling with the new version,
right?
But it is. You might have a little extra crust left over, kind of thing, but for the most part, it is the exact same thing.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And I've done a lot of distribution upgrades, and the only thing that broke was a podcasting client I had that I went out on my own, downloaded it, built from source, and installed it. A library it depended on got phased out in a distribution upgrade, so then that software package did not work. That's the only time I've ever had anything break.
If that's all that broke, then that's not bad.
Yeah, and I can tell you one time I went through 4 upgrades on the same computer without blanking and reinstalling, and I had no issues whatsoever. So that's one of the big pluses to Ubuntu versus the standard Mint. With the standard Mint, you cannot do a distribution upgrade.
I see.
You do a backup, save off of disk, blank, install, and then a restore.
It seems like most of the development's going into just straight Ubuntu, isn't it? Not Mint, not any other spin-off things. It's going into Ubuntu, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because they're the corporation with the money. I hate to say it like this, but all the other Ubuntu-based distributions are forced to play catch-up.
Mm-hmm.
Because whatever Ubuntu does, it's hard for them to do something better.
I see.
So they're always following up. Now, that said, Linux Mint just released a Debian version where the typical Mint is based off Ubuntu. The Debian version is what they call a rolling release distribution, which means you should never have to blank and reinstall your disk to be up to date. You can always be up to date.
Does it look and act the same as Mint, the Mint that's based off Ubuntu?
No, it doesn't look quite the same. It definitely looks reminiscent, but it isn't the same operating system. If you get into it, there's definite differences. But from a novice perspective, it's pretty close. It's going to be a little bit quicker, to tell you the truth.
What's the name of it?
I knew you were going to ask that. I believe it's Linux Mint, like Core, maybe?
Okay. I was just curious.
Now
Don't worry about it. People can figure it out. Google it.
Actually, it's just called Linux Mint Debian.
Okay.
So I made it more complex than it is. But now here's one of the hooks. That is going to be what they call a rolling release, which means you technically shouldn't have to do anything special to be up to date. You're just going to keep doing updates.
Right.
Ubuntu is technically not a rolling release because you have to do that distribution upgrade, which actually, one of the main things it does, it goes into your repositories and it wipes them out and it points to a new set of repositories. So it isn't technically a rolling release, but it is a handheld upgrade.
Okay.
It could be a lot more painful, and it isn't. I think Ubuntu is a good half and half. It's not a rolling release, but it is at least updatable to the next version.
Right.
And I've only heard of very, very few people having issues.
But when they come out with, say, 11, you probably can't do a rolling release on that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, really?
When that the 1104 comes out, you're going to, again, go Alt plus F2 and type update manager -D.
Okay.
And then you're going to get the same kind of prompt.
Cool.
And one of the things I thought you would like and that I thought was very appealing is a link to omgubuntu.co.uk. And it's entitled Ubuntu 10.10's new installer slideshow oozes class. This is what you see when you install Ubuntu on a computer. To the Windows people, this is a totally foreign experience.
What is
when
this?
You go to
What is it?
This is what you see when you install Ubuntu on a computer. When you're in Windows, you have a very isolated stream that you have to follow to install the operating system. And while it's installing the operating system, you cannot do anything. You have to sit there, wait, and hit next. Next, enter a computer name. Next. And you can't do anything. When you're in Ubuntu, you can browse the internet on a different desktop, answer emails, you can load Skype and have a conversation. You can do anything on a Ubuntu desktop that you can do on an installed one while you're installing the operating system.
That's weird. I mean, that was never an issue with me. I never sat and watched Windows load and said, "Man, I wish I could surf the net with Windows right now." So what?
Well, I'll tell you what I always do when I'm installing. I connect to the internet. Number one, that allows the repositories to be updated as you're installing the operating system. And then technically, if you want, you can, go into IRC, go into chat while you're doing it to kill time instead of just sitting there on a different computer, keep looking back. Oh, no, it's not ready.
Right.
Oh, no, it isn't ready. You can literally just be on the same screen. It's just one of the things that I like because what I do sometimes, when I was a Linux Live CD on a computer downstairs I'm working on, the Live CD is the installer CD. I then enable my desktop, then I go upstairs, cook for the kids, and on my laptop upstairs, I remote into the computer downstairs. And what I've been doing on every computer I redo for people, I put a extra partition at the end of the drive, and I put Ubuntu on it, just so if their Windows gets too corrupt, maybe they can boot into Ubuntu and still do what they need to do, because it's now been taking me a couple days to get to my customers.
Huh.
So I'm just trying to make them happy in the meantime, kind of thing.
Right.
And the ability to just boot the disk, go into the desktop, go to the main menu, administration, and then enable a remote desktop, then go upstairs, then I can install it from upstairs, just is another convenience factor, I'll say. And I'll say it's dang pretty.
This looks great.
Yeah, they basically said it loses class. To me, it is the best experience of installing an operating system that I think I've ever had.
Wow.
And just because it really only asks you a couple questions, most people should not have any issue with those questions. It's just, what's your name? What's your password? Do you want to share the disk? Do you want to use the entire disk? Do you want to use free space on the disk? They try to keep it more simplistic. And to be honest, that's one of the things I really do appreciate about it.
Right.
Because when I first started, I wasn't sure what to pick.
I don't know. The install seems kind of simple to me. I guess I've installed enough Linux distros at this point that it makes it easy.
Well, I can tell you a large percentage of them do not make it as simple.
Oh, gotcha.
You have to literally go in and re-partition your drive. You have to know how big to make the boot drive, how big to make the swap drive. And unless you've done it many times, you have no idea what those settings are.
Right. Good point.
Yeah, and since we were at that site, omgubuntu.co.uk,
right.
To be honest, I added their RSS feed on my Android phone because I kind of like what they were talking about. It seems to me like a pretty good site. It's really more geared towards like news,
right?
And some of them might not be headline news, but it is something that's happening in Ubuntu.
It's kind of like the spinoff of OMG. That what is it? Yahoo or it's AOL's like celebrity gossip site, but it's for Ubuntu.
Right, and like one of the things that I saw on the page that I had no idea about is it's titled Ubuntu 10.10 Sound Applet Buttons Now Respect Your Theme. If you use the default media player to play audio, from the top, you know how in Windows in the taskbar, if you click the volume button, you can change the volume in an application or for the whole system. Well, this one, you click it and you get a little slider for the volume. Then you get a next, previous, and pause button, and it gives you like album art.
Wow, this is all comes standard in the newest Ubuntu.
Yes. completely standard. And I got to say, that is a very appealing thing for new users.
Yeah, this thing's great. I'm excited. I want to install this.
Well, needless to say, I'm going to install it the next day or two.
I bet you I beat you.
I bet you will, because as soon as I get off the phone, I got to run to the store and buy stuff.
Waffles.
I actually bought 2 boxes of like 24 the other day. I got to get school stuff.
Okay.
For my son.
Gotcha.
With me. The next thing I'll cover real quick, and this is how this show in my eyes is realistic compared to some other shows. I listen to a lot of Linux podcasts.
Yeah.
Some of them are excellent podcasts.
But this one's the
are
best.
Sometimes a little, well, you know, some of them are a little bit hard to follow.
Yeah.
Some of them spend 20 minutes talking about how to smoke pork loin. I don't tune in for that personally.
Right.
This is a exploit on the Linux kernel in the 64-bit version.
Okay.
It turns out this exploit goes back something like almost 20 versions. Now, here's the only saving grace in my eyes for sanity for myself and Linux. This is only a 64-bit version exploit. So if you're running 32-bit, it doesn't apply to you. Secondly, this exploit only exists if you have physical access to the box.
Okay.
So if you have a good password, you know, there's really nothing to worry about at all. What this exploit did, it allowed a normal user to become a root user or super user or administrator of the box without entering a password.
I see. Ubuntu,
and
right?
For Windows, well, all Linux, every version of Linux.
Only 64-bit.
Only 64-bit. Picture it in Windows 7. You know how if you give somebody a guest account or a normal account, and if they try to install software, they get prompted for the admin password. Mac has had this for a long time, since it's based on BSD and Unix. Same thing with those have been happening in Linux pretty much forever. You cannot do certain tasks unless you put in a password. And this exploit allowed someone who had physical access to do whatever he wanted to your computer without typing in a password. This is not the first exploit for Linux. This will not be the last exploit for Linux. And I can tell you the last 3 exploits I've been aware of in the kernel all require physical access. So that's one thing that makes me feel a little bit better.
All right.
Because the people who handle my computers are only people that I trust. And my wife. I know she's not going to exploit my operating.
Right.
Yeah, so nothing is infallible. I'm a firm believer. Any operating system that writes to disk, rewrites to disk, executes from disk is technically exploitable. And if you listen to Security Now, then you already know that.
Right. If you could follow that show.
It's a little bit difficult, but once in a while he says something in a very common sense fashion, and that's when I stop, go back 15 seconds.
Right.
So I want to make sure I heard him, but he actually said it normal.
I know. I stopped listening because I was only getting about 10% of that show. No, I haven't listened to it in a long time.
There's more than a couple episodes, 5 minutes into it, or actually takes half an hour. 5 minutes into the actual subject, I just skip.
That's great.
Can't follow it, or I just don't care about it.
Yeah.
So, it's just one of those things. This is every operating system you need to keep up to date. Windows has the Windows updates. Mac has updates, software updates. Linux has updates. This is the reason to patch any system you have. And even with your phone devices now, it's going to become more vital to patch your computers.
Makes sense. I believe you.
The two last links I'm going to throw out there real quick. Good friend of podnutz in general, and a friend of mine, I did a different podcast with him. Josh, the Knucklehead Tech.
Yeah.
He's going to the Utah Open Source Conference, and he's going there really as a helper.
Okay.
Technically, he's getting in the door for free, but technically he's going to give them money. He's going to donate some money. This is an example of the kind of brotherhood that happens at a Linux conference, and the two websites are utoscs.com.
SC. UTOSC.
I'm sorry. Yeah, utosc.com, Utah Open Source Convention, and then utos.org. These conferences have been going on there for a couple of years. They've been growing by almost 80% every year, which some conferences blow that away, but this is a very... The conference starts October 7th, ends on the 9th. It is actually in Salt Lake City.
Does Knucklehead Tech live out there?
He lives a little bit away.
Okay.
I want to say he lives over 8 hours away.
Wow.
And he's just really jacked and wants to go. He wants to go hang out with other Linux users, talk about experiences, things they've witnessed.
Sure.
You know, what's cool, what do you think's cool, what can you do on your computer kind of talk. And he's going to learn about what it takes to get involved with open source, what do people who do open source need help with, kind of thing. It's a very, very cool event. I've actually, this is one of the events, I believe, where they do post video and audio after the event of every talk that happens.
Oh, that's great.
So if you're by there, I highly encourage you to go and register. I believe it's they have an early registration fee that I believe just passed. I think you had to register before the 27th, and I think today's the 27th.
Yes.
For $25 after today. So today you might be able to still get it. After today, it is $100. And I can tell you this money is not going towards stupid things to send people to Florida on business trips kind of thing.
Right.
This is going to support this organization to have a conference next year.
Sounds awesome. The more you talk about these Linux conferences or open source conferences, I so want to go if one's in my area. Utah's a bit of a hike, but Russ is going to that one. Ohio, Knuckle is going to Utah. I want to go to one.
Well, there is Southeast Linux Fest. I believe that happens in
Atlanta. I bet.
I'm not sure if it's Georgia or South Carolina.
Okay.
I think it is Georgia. But that's not happening now for, I think, 10 months.
Oh, man. I'll find one. I'll find one.
Yeah, I told my wife already a couple days ago. She said what she wanted for Christmas, which, of course, I'm a husband, so I can't remember what she said. But I said, you want to know what I want for Christmas? And she said, what? I said, I want to go to the Ohio Linux Fest. And she's like, how much is that going to cost? Like $5,000? And after talking to Russ, I was like, no, at the most, it's going to cost around $500.
Wow.
She was like, oh, okay.
Well, she's just happy to get you out of the house.
You didn't, yeah. You said it. I'm only agreeing. A little peace and quiet.
That's funny. Yeah, I got to hear Russ. I'm sure he's back now. I'm sure from that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And he did do a Techie Geek where he talked about it a little bit, but he specifically does not want to go into too much detail because within I would think the most 2 or 3 weeks, they're going to have every talk, video and audio, and when they have slides, the slides are going to be online. They available to download. And he made it clear to me that he does not want to steal their thunder because he said the talks are good enough to stand on their own. He likes talking about the people and individual talks he had with people and not with the actual podium talks that happened. And
still, he should recap it on the Techie Geek. I mean, he's not going to steal their thunder. He's not going to say the whole thing, the whole speech. But anyway.
Right. Well, here's the thing. He was on a panel.
Oh, okay. Good for him.
He was on a panel. Yeah, and he did go into a little bit of detail about, the talks in general. And, one of the talks I really want to listen to is 25 command line commands you can use right now. And it really was an example of 25 commands a lot of people might not know. But if you do know them, especially if you're a system admin, you will find yourself using those commands a lot.
I thought you talked about that on the show one time. Maybe it was a different site.
Well, I did, I believe, mention it, but Russ just, teased it.
I got you. Cool. Yeah, we got to hit some fests. We got to hit some fests.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I want to say sadness. The Ontario conference, which I know somebody who lived up by there, was canceled less than 2 weeks before it was supposed to happen. They did not get enough people to pre-register in time, and they did not have the money to pay for the hall.
Damn. It's a shame.
Yeah. I blame the French up there.
Of course. They have to.
Exactly. Yeah, so, I highly encourage you. Now, if you've ever been to a LUG, which is just a Linux users group, the one thing I hear from people when they talk privately to me is a conference is nothing like a LUG. A LUG, you're expected to sit down and listen to experts talk about things, and then afterwards you might be able to strike up a conversation, maybe with somebody. The Linux Fest is all day you listen to people, and then all night you just talk to real users. You just walk around, say hi to people. That's a nice shirt. Where'd you get that from? And people hand out shirts freely.
Really?
But they're cheese. And you can just talk to people, and, of course there's going to be somebody there with a mobile unit recording a podcast for somebody.
No, it sounds like a blast. Sounds like a blast. I would love to go to one. I have to get out to one. If I go to a Linux Fest, I'm sure that I will be like, I'll come home and I won't want to use anything but Linux. I just know that's how it's going to be. I'm kind of afraid if that happens. I got this whole setup of Windows and Mac. I'm trying Linux on my Skype computer.
Well, I mean, if you listen to Russ, to me, Russ is the most realistic Linux user I've ever been around in my life.
Yeah.
He makes it very clear. Just use what works. If your audio doesn't work completely right, or if your Skype doesn't work completely right, don't force it. Don't pound your head into the concrete for 50 hours trying to figure it out. Just stick to Windows or Mac. Just run it there.
For anybody who doesn't know, you should, but if you don't know who we're talking about when we say Russ, it's Russ Wenner of the Techie Geek podcast. It's at thetechiegeek.com. You should definitely check it out.
Yeah, and his brother-in-law is Tracy. He worked with a podcast called Working in the Open, and he just ended that where it was all about open source. He's starting, to me, a very exciting podcast up. I don't remember the name off the top of my head. I'll make sure it's in the notes. It's all about how to get the content you want off the internet, for the most part, for free. The example is Sunday football.
Yeah.
You said last week your football game was blacked out.
Right.
There's at least half a dozen sites you could have went to, and you could have watched it for free.
Really? Oh, man. That sucks. I didn't even think of that.
I
didn't even think of that. Who's this guy? It's Russ's cousin, you said? Brother?
Yeah, Tracy Holtz.
Okay.
Tracy Holtz. I believe it's his brother-in-law. And I want to say the one site is called channelsurfing.net.
Okay, I'll check it out.
And that's where you go and you can freely watch a lot of live TV.
All right. I'll check it out. Good one. Okay. What else, Dor? Do we have any emails or anything, or do you have any more stuff you want to go over?
We did have emails. None of them were, in my eyes, extremely outstanding. They were just thanking us for some of the things we did. The modem guy told me something I didn't realize. A user had an issue getting modem software to work in Ubuntu. We bounced around with a whole bunch of different stuff. And what it turns out is if he gets an external fax modem and hooks it up via serial, which a lot of the old ones did,
right,
you don't need a driver. You need no driver or no special software to interface with it. It used to be the standard of how they always talked. So it's built into virtually every kernel of every operating system how to communicate with a modem over a serial port.
Huh.
And this is the kind of thing, like thinking out the box. Don't be hard-headed and insist something has to be done a certain way.
Yeah.
I didn't think of this, and when he said it, it made perfect sense to me. So he has a solution. He doesn't have the money, I believe, right now for the external the modem, but at least he has an answer on the horizon that I really hope is going to help him get everything nailed down and fixed.
Good one. Yeah, I mean, if anybody mentioned using a serial port to me, I'd be like, come on, get out of town. Come up to the 2000s, please. But
yeah,
hey, if it works, it works. I mean, that's just me being short-sighted. Yeah, when we had one about Chris. He was asking about Evernote. Is there any not Evernote? Sorry, OneNote. Any OneNote apps comparable to Microsoft OneNote for Linux? I think you were doing some research on it. I don't know of any.
Well, I mean, the one thing I said to him, which I really didn't want to call being rude, was that I've never used OneNote.
I actually hear it's pretty good, Dor. I actually hear it's pretty good.
Well, I don't doubt that it's good, but what I asked, I said, what about it is good? You know, what about it makes it good?
Right.
And I'm hoping he's going to say the handwriting recognition.
Okay. Why? Because you have an app for that?
Well, no, just because Evernote, to me, seems to be the most simplistic yet full-featured, all-purpose, cross-platform note-taking application. You can I had a IBM X41 ThinkPad, and it didn't have OneNote installed, but it did have the 10 with the stylus-like, and there was a handwriting recognition part of it, but I loaded Evernote, and I was able to, in meetings, write my chicken scratch on the screen, and it virtually always picked up the text correctly and saved it as a text note.
Wow.
And with Evernote, you can even take pictures of text.
Do you use all free on Evernote, or do you paid?
All free.
Cool.
It was all free. And there's Android app, there's iPhone app, there's a Linux version, a Mac version, a Windows version.
And Evernote was the first program. We have a delay, sorry. Evernote was the first program that I know that could recognize pictures, like recognize text in JPEGs, you know what I mean? And that was awesome. I used it for a while, and then I just kind of fell off the Evernote wagon there. Got to start using that again.
Yeah, it's one of those apps that always falls in and out of my graces kind of thing.
Yeah.
One that I've been to, I want to take notes, but typically my notes are now web links. So I've been using Instapaper.
Okay.
Instapaper is just a really easy way to save bookmarks and web pages and access them from a multitude of areas.
Ah, that's cool. Good one. I'm not going to tell you my, for more apps, I'm not going to tell you my Android app on the air. I'll tell Dor after the show. But if anybody wants to know what my killer app for Android, and it's actually for some other systems this week is, you got to tune into Android App Addicts on Thursday night, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here. Dor, you want to go over anything else, or what do you want to do?
I think we're pretty good. I think we covered a whole bunch.
If you guys want to email us, send us a mail. You can email me at mail@podnutz.com, or you can email Dor direct at doortodorgeek@gmail.com. Thank you for those of you who are sending your emails in. We're answering them. If it's something that we feel like we could share with the rest of us, we'll read your email online or on the show if you don't mind. If you want to send us a voicemail, call us 7076-PODNUT. 7076-PODNUT. Call us on a regular phone. Leave a voicemail. We will play that on the air as well. All right, Dor. Anything you want to end off on? Where can people find you?
They go to doortodorgeek.com. That's my quote-unquote business site. And if you go to blog.doortodorgeek.com, you'll see stuff that hasn't been updated for a while. But I'll have an app that will fix that.
Okay. Are we going to have to wait for Android for that?
No. I can get on the ball.
What about you do another podcast, right? Tell us about that.
I do Android App Acts, which I got to say is quite an addictive podcast here.
That's cool, but I wasn't talking about that actually. I was talking about Linux Basics. But go ahead. No, you can plug that. I
was going to build up to it.
No, I'm not going to plug in my own Podnutz shows, but you can. Just kidding.
It's just a fun podcast with me, Steve, and Steve. And we just have fun talking about Android functions and applications. But the other podcast, it's really blossomed into a big thing. It's a Linux Basics, LINUX BASIX.
Okay.
And the key difference between that podcast and this podcast is that podcast you have up to 13 people on a single episode, and we talk about everything from security issues to hardcore bash scripts that can do all kinds of trickery. We have a guy on the show now who is very handy with code. He can take Python code and work wonders with it.
Huh. Wow.
So it is definitely a little bit more in-depth, but we always try to bring it back to the new user's experience and to try to help them along.
Sweet. Check out Linux Basics, LINUXBASIX.com. He was also talking about Android App Addicts. That's, like I said, we do that on Thursday night. Somebody did email us, and they called us Steve's Cubed, which I liked. I quite liked. It's the three Steves and usually a Tim thrown in there or another guest. And we're actually going to have a Lalo thrown in, as he has just purchased his Droid X, and I believe he has it right now. So.
Oh, excellent. We brought him in.
All right, well, I want to thank everybody for bearing with us tonight. Sorry about the audio quality on this show. We're going to blame Comcast for that. Dor's talking on a regular phone now. It's the only way we could communicate. But we'll have that fixed up for next week.
After the show, I'm going to take my modem outside. I'm going to curb it.
Okay. Sweet. Just have another one for next week.
Exactly.
And thanks again for everybody. Thank you, Dor. And that's going to be it for Linux for the rest of us for this week. We'll see you guys next time.